Hello there, it's Bjorn, the Backyard Barbarian, and we're here in my living room today because I would like to discuss two aspects of fitness that I believe are important for throwing the perfect punch. Now, there are several reasons why you may need to throw a punch. And while you're doing that, you want to make sure that you are protecting yourself by using the proper technique. There are many people out there right now who are much more qualified, much more experienced combatants than I am that can tell you the proper technique for throwing punches. I am a mere student. However, what I'm going to share with you today are some exercises that you can use to prepare your body to safely and effectively throw powerful punches. Many people mistakenly believe that a powerful punch comes from the chest and the shoulders. They think that if you have a big bench press, you have a powerful punch. And while it is true that power and speed are generated from the chest and the shoulder, it's not the focus, the main area from which power is drawn. In a proper punch, the power comes from the ground through the feet, the twist in the hips and the torso that then transfers all of that power and strength and energy and focuses it into that fist. So some exercises that I believe will help in delivering the maximum amount of power. The classic kettlebell swing, the kettlebell halo, and the kettlebell atlas swing. So if you're on TikTok, find me on YouTube and follow along for the rest of some demonstrations on those exercises. And if you're already on YouTube, don't change that dial. All right, before we get into demonstrations, I would like to talk a little bit about why I believe that these three exercises form a good foundation for throwing the perfect punch. The classic kettlebell swing is, like a punch, commonly mistaken to be a shoulder exercise. It is not. It is a hip hinge exercise that works the glutes, the hamstrings, and the quads as you drive the ground away and thrust your hips forward. So we are going to keep our shoulders relaxed during the kettlebell swing, and all of the energy is going to be produced from the waist down. From the waist up, we're only focusing on being the connection to the weight. With the halo, this exercise really opens the shoulders. It improves your shoulder mobility. It works all of the small rotator cuff muscles and connective supporting muscles in the scapular area, in the shoulders, in the chest, that help stabilize the shoulder, because this is a weak spot for many people in the chain from the ground to the fist. And this is a very loose joint as far as joints go. We call it a ball and socket, but the socket is mostly soft tissue, not like the hip where you've got that hard socket in the pelvis. In the shoulder, you don't have that kind of support, that kind of structure. So we want to make sure that we are strengthening all the musculature in that area while we're stretching it and making sure we've got a healthy range of motion. And then the Atlas swing is where we really start to focus on the rotational power generation in our hips. Whereas the classic kettlebell swing is a forward motion, the Atlas swing is lateral across the body. So we will be working that rotation in our hips just like we would if we were throwing a punch. So without further ado, let's get on with demonstrating the classic kettlebell swing. This is one that you are most likely familiar with. So we are going to stand in what I call the power triangle. Our feet are slightly farther than shoulder width apart. Well, our heels are slightly more than shoulder width apart. Our toes are pointed 5-10 degrees out. We don't want to point it in because that brings our knees into the weight area, and we don't want to have them pointed out too far because then that opens our hip too much and we can't properly get that powerful hinge. So just a comfortable point out, and then we're going to have the weight about 12 to 18 inches in front of you. You'll get a feel for exactly how far it needs to be based on the rest of the setup here. So we're going to break at the hips and bend slightly at the knees. Keep our torso straight from our tailbone to our neck. We want to have a neutral spine. We don't want to curve down, and we don't want to flex up. We just want to have a neutral spine. We're going to come down to meet the weight. Both hands on the handle. Tip it towards us, and then we're going to pull into our groin with our lats, keeping our arms straight. And then thrust forward with our hips, and that drives the weight up. So let's show that from the side. We're going to get in our power triangle, heels slightly more than shoulder width apart, toes very slightly pointed out. We're going to break at the hips, bend at the knees, come down to meet the weight. It's 12 to 18 inches in front of us. Tip it slightly towards us, and this is the ready position. Notice the spine, fairly neutral, but we're engaging our core. So we're keeping our spinal erectors and our abdominal muscles tight, because that's how we transfer the power from our hips to our shoulders. So weight tip towards us. We're going to engage the lats to pull the kettlebell into the groin. Thrust forward with the hips, and the shoulders are entirely relaxed. All right. So I've got a 25-pound kettlebell right now. I have mini kettlebells. I'm using my 25-pound kettlebell. It is a fairly easy weight for me for all of these exercises in brief intervals. I like to use this weight for time. So I'll set a timer for 2 minutes, and I will do an exercise for 2 minutes just to challenge myself more cardiovascularly, muscular endurance-wise. So, but you can do this with heavier weights and do it for reps instead, like a maximum of 10 reps in a round, if the kettlebell is heavy enough and challenging enough. So this is a very versatile exercise. The kettlebell halo, I do recommend sticking with lighter weights, especially while you're getting started, because you don't want to strain all of those small muscles in the shoulder joint. So 25 pounds is kind of like mid for me. I would go up to my 16 kilogram, which is like 32, 33, 34 pounds. If I wanted to do strength training with the halo. But without further ado, with the halo, we're just going to come down, grab the kettlebell by the horns with our thumbs out, because we want to hold it in what is called the goblet rack position. This is the goblet rack because you would hold the kettlebell here if you were doing goblet squats, but we're not doing that. We're doing kettlebell halos. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our left wrist up to our right ear and then have the kettlebell circle our head like a halo. There we go. So that's half a rep. We go back the opposite direction, and that's 1. And then we go back the other way. That's half a rep. Back, and that's 2. So what we want to do is we want to keep the kettlebell as close to our head as possible while we're doing this exercise. And in the back, we want to make sure that the kettlebell is dropping down as far as we can stretch comfortably and still maintain that stability in our shoulder. I recommend doing them alternating like this until you're comfortable with the motion. And once you are, then you can start to do continuous reps in one direction for 5 or 10, and then switch and go the other for 5 to 10. I recommend doing the 1-and-1 alternating ones to build up strength and stamina first, because you don't want to do 10 going to the left and then not have the ability to do 10 more in the opposite direction. So, pace yourself, learn your body. It's okay to start slow. Baby steps, man. We all start somewhere. Now, the Atlas swing is, of these three, the most complicated coordination-wise. So if you start with the classic swing and the halo first, get comfortable with those, build your confidence with those, build your strength and your stamina with those, then come to the Atlas swing. If you feel like you're ready to do it right now, jump right in, because the only way to learn is to do with these. So with the Atlas swing, we are again going to assume our power triangle, heels slightly farther than shoulder width apart, toes pointed very slightly out, 5 to 10 degrees. And this time, the kettlebell is going to be directly in line with the balls of our feet or our toes, somewhere in that area. And we are going to, again, break at the hips, bend at the knees, come down and meet the weight, grab the handle with both hands, and deadlift it up. Now, because this is a lateral exercise, we can't just get started. So we're going to start with our hips, get a little pendulum going, and then really throw our hips into it. One side is half, the other side is the full rep. And notice the quick whipping rotation of the hips is what really drives the weight. Now again, this is not a shoulder exercise. However, you will feel this exercise a good deal more in your traps and shoulders than you should feel the classic kettlebell swing. Because there is that rotational aspect, there is a stretching tension on those muscles at the top of these reps. So that's where the soreness and the work in those muscles is coming from, is the tension that they're under while they're stretching in these extreme positions in the exercise at the peaks. So we've got the classic kettlebell swing for general training of power generation through the hips, general strength conditioning, and confidence building in knowing how to move our body as a unit. We've got the kettlebell halo for strength and mobility in the shoulders, which is where the acceleration comes from at the end of the punch. Because remember, it's force equals mass times acceleration. And the fist has a fixed mass. So the way to increase force is to increase that acceleration. And because all the power is starting here, we're taking all of that energy and then accelerating it at the end with the shoulder girdle. So we want to make sure we've got a strong, healthy, flexible shoulder to support that energy that we're drawing through the ground. And then we've got the kettlebell Atlas swing, which really helps us train that rotational power generation through the hips with our feet firmly grounded. And that really does transfer very well into throwing a punch. So while you're out there, be safe, be mindful, and stay strong. Catch me in that next one. Peace.